Look who I found. I found Josh. Josh is here with DesignMakeTeach.com. Josh, what is Design Make Teach? What are you showing off here?
Well, this is my personal blog, and I like to write about 3D printing in the classroom. I'm an educator, and just as a personal professional development, I started writing lesson plans and designing models for things to use in the classroom. So I work with a science academy during the year, and then in the summer I do STEM camp. And so I have these awesome, cool projects and ideas for how you might use 3D printing in the classroom and for schools. A lot of people are like, well, how would you actually use a 3D printer? This table is the answer to that. It's like 40 projects on design challenges, science stuff, math stuff, humanities, how to use it in an English class. So I have articles on my blog that kind of explain some of the thoughts and ideas that I have about how teachers and students can use 3D printing to learn and other digital fabrication tools and maker education and all that cool stuff.
So with this, your personal blog, does it have actual lesson plans using 3D printing in all these different disciplines?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a classroom teacher. It's I'll have this idea and I'll write up. Sometimes they're really short little challenges, like the Tic Tac Box Challenge. What can you design for something that's functional to fit inside a Tic Tac box? Whereas some things like this foldable cube, I have a full lesson on like 50 ideas on how you could use a foldable cube in the classroom. So it kind of depends on how much time I have at night before I go to bed on how detailed the lesson idea gets. Sometimes it's quick tutorials like how do you make a 2D graph into a 3D printed object, or how do you make a historical marker template. So, but it's all just ideas that I have that I want to get out to people about real-world applications on digital fabrication and learning and how those things connect together.
Well, that's really awesome, because anytime that you can teach anyone about 3D printing using real-world examples and functional examples of how it works, rather than just printing a little Pokemon character like I typically do, I think is completely and totally valuable, and more of that is needed. Are there any videos along with your lesson plans and on your blog, or is this picture for examples, or are you letting someone else kind of come up with how they go about it using their imagination?
What I try to do is I try to do a write-up. I try and take some good quality photos, and then usually I do a Thingiverse or Tinkercad model so that people can take that model and adapt that idea to what they're doing. So it might be a template like the historical marker template that they can take that basis and then add their own text to and incorporate it into their project. But like I'll have something like this on Tinkercad where it has the components built out, and they can kind of dissect the model and figure out how I came up with it.
Oh, okay. It sounds like there's a lot of stuff there I should go learn, because I probably don't know how to do half of this stuff. Do you have a favorite? Is there something that you're very proud of and are really happy it's out there, or something that you think has really, really shown great promise in how people have responded to it?
I think the area that I'm most interested in right now is this National Hispanic Heritage Month project. I think if you go and look on Thingiverse, you'll find that the number of models representing people from Spanish-speaking countries, it's a very small number of models, right? So I think there's this huge explosive area for growth for people to explore heritage and culture and sense of identity using kind of 3D modeling and publishing designs that represent their history and culture. Because right now, like Thingiverse has a lot of popular culture stuff. It has a lot of stuff that's Star Wars. It has a lot of stuff that are memes, and that's great. But there are things like exploring Hispanic heritage, or National Black History Month, or Women's History. There's all these things where there could be models there, and every time I go online and on Thingiverse and I find 0 models, it gets me excited, because that means there's a huge potential for students to design things and publish new models and ideas and contribute to the world.
That's a great way to think about it. I can't help but think you're almost fighting an uphill battle, because getting that sort of education into mainstream enough to have a Thingiverse model or something like that, I'm glad you're excited when no model exists, because it does give an opportunity. But I hope I hope that you are able to find less times where no models exist as you continue forward. You do have something awesome over here. Do you mind showing us what you got here?
Absolutely. So I also like to do art, and I think post-processing models is an exciting thing to do. Obviously, it's great to wake up in the morning and find a really cool print on your print bed waiting for you. But I think there's more that we can do with those. And so every time I go to the craft store, I get excited when I see all the different products that are available and think nobody's tried this sort of substance and material or art supply on a 3D print. And so I'll go in and I'll buy like $50 worth of art supplies, and I'll go and see what effect does this have. And sometimes it doesn't work at all, and that makes me sad. But this is a technique that I've developed that uses alcohol-based ink, and you apply it to the surface, and the capillary action draws the ink along the layer lines, and so it's taking advantage of the 3D printing process to create this really nice grain effect. The intensity of the colors varies because of how the ink is being drawn along those layer lines. And so you can get some really sort of beautiful impressionistic effects. You can get like a wood grain effect. You can get a sandstone effect, all by just kind of dipping, putting this ink straight on a PLA print. No sanding, no priming, no post-processing, just boom, dotting the color on.
That's really cool. And I'm glad you said a wood grain effect, because if you look at a model such as this is fresh off the printer, and all you did was add this alcohol-based ink to it, and it looks like a wood grain. You're essentially doing a stain of a print, much like you would stain a wooden piece. That looks cool, Josh. This looks really cool, man. Can you show us how it works?
Absolutely. So this is the Hunter Skull from Sci-Fi. Sci-Fi is coming out with some really great models on Thingiverse. And so this represents an alien skull here. So let's find an area where there's not much color yet. And so what I'm going to do is just take the alcohol-based ink and just drop a drop on there. But look how it spreads along those layer lines, right? And so the cool thing is, as you add separate colors here, there's a blending zone. So instead of two colors, you're actually creating multiple colors on top of each other. And it just gives this really great variation in color and intensity there.
Well, that's really cool. I'm really surprised, because it doesn't look like it takes much ink at all to do this.
No, this is a real simple technique. I feel like anybody can do it. There's no priming. You don't have to worry about if you paint with acrylics, you have to worry about the acrylic paint rubbing off with handling. That's not a problem at all with this alcohol-based inks.
Oh, so you don't have to treat the model afterwards. You don't have to put something like XTC 3D or anything over it. The ink just stays in place?
Nope. Straight ink on PLA. And if you go too far, you can take an alcohol wipe and just tone the color down. You can wipe off some of the color. It doesn't get it all off, but it can kind of tone down and blend the colors really well.
God, that's a really cool technique. Thanks for showing us, man.
Sure thing.
Well, that was Josh here with this awesome tutorial on how to ink some PLA prints. And God, thanks for your time today.
Sure thing. Great to meet you.
We should high five.